Hello friends, let us now learn about a few new topic in obstetrics, that is spermatogenesis. Okay, how is spermatogenesis takes place? Spermatogenesis starts from the parent cell, that is spermatogonia. This spermatogonia undergoes mitosis and it forms primary spermatocyte. Okay, this primary spermatocyte is formed from mitosis. Okay, first this spermatogonia undergoes mitosis and it forms primary spermatocyte. This primary spermatocyte gives rise to undergoes meiosis 1 and it forms secondary spermatocyte. This secondary spermatocyte undergoes meiosis 2 and it forms sperms. Okay, these are sperms. First it forms spermatozoa. So this is spermatozoa. This spermatozoa will undergo transformation called as spermiogenesis and it forms the present sperms. Okay, so there is meiosis 1 which is happening and there is mitosis, then we have meiosis 1 and meiosis 2. This is spermatogenesis and this process is called as spermiogenesis. Fine, then we have sperm. Now for the formation of this spermatogenesis, it takes place nearly 72 to 74 days occurs for the process of spermatogenesis to occur. What are the average number of sperms produced per day? Per day 100 million sperms are produced per day, and one primary spermatocyte, if you see here, it gives how many spermatids? 4 spermatids. One primary spermatocyte gives rise to 4 spermatids and 16 one spermatogonia. This one spermatogonia will give rise to 16 of these primary spermatocytes. Okay, so one primary spermatogonia gives rise to 16 primary spermatocytes. So one spermatogonia gives rise to how many sperms? That is 4 into 16, that is equal to, it gives rise to 64 sperms. Okay, so this you should remember. One primary spermatogonia gives rise to 16 primary spermatocytes and thus 64 sperms. Okay, then how much time will it take for spermiogenesis to occur? What is spermiogenesis? Spermiogenesis is modification of spermatozoa to form the sperm. This spermiogenesis it takes 12 to 14 days for spermiogenesis to occur. So during spermiogenesis, the spermatid gets transformed to sperm. The nuclear material of spermatid forms the head of the sperm. The Golgi body of spermatid forms the acrosomal cap of sperm. The middle piece of spermatid is formed by the mitochondria. Microtubule or centriole will form the tail or axial filament of spermatid. Then if you see, the sperm lacks the endoplasmic reticulum. There is no endoplasmic reticulum for sperm. So these are very important. Next we will see some important points about sperm. What is the length of the sperm? The length of the sperm is 55 microns in length and the fertilizable span of sperm is 48 to 72 hours. The sperm attains motility and maturity in caudal end of epididymis. Motility and maturity is attained by the sperm in caudal end of epididymis. The gene responsible for motility of sperm is Caspr gene. Caspr gene is responsible for motility of sperm and ion of motility is calcium ion. Sperm remains motile in female genital tract for 12 hours. The sperm remains motile in female genital tract for 12 hours. The time taken for the sperm to reach the ampulla of tube is 30 minutes. The time taken for the sperm to reach the ampulla of the fallopian tube is 30 minutes. Then what is the first stimulus to release testosterone from Leydig cell? The first stimulus to release testosterone from Leydig cell is HCG. The first stimulus for testosterone release is HCG. Then LH receptor is present on Leydig cells. In males, if you see, if we have, where is LH receptor? LH receptor in males is present on Leydig cells, whereas FSH receptors of males are present on Sertoli cells. Then what is the pituitary hypothalamic axis? Hypothalamus secretes growth hormone, gonadotropin releasing hormone. This gonadotropin releasing hormone activates the anterior pituitary, which produces luteinizing hormone and follicle stimulating hormone. Luteinizing hormone will activate the Leydig cell, L for L, and this follicle stimulating hormone will activate the Sertoli cells. This Leydig cell will produce testosterone, which will activate spermatogenesis. So Leydig cell activates spermatogenesis, whereas Sertoli cell produces inhibin B. Then let us learn about oogenesis. So in the oogenesis, we have a oogonia. These oogonia are 46XX. Oogonia are made up of 46XX, and this oogonia undergoes mitosis to form primary oocyte. Okay, this primary oocyte actually has follicular cells. This primary oocyte has follicular cells. Okay, and it has cortex and medulla. The cortex have granulosa cells, whereas medulla have theca cells. The cortex has granulosa cells, whereas medulla has theca cells in the primary oocyte. This primary oocyte, in the presence of meiosis inhibitory factor, there is meiosis inhibitory factor. In the presence of meiosis inhibitory factor, it leads to arrest of oogonia in diplotin stage of prophase of meiosis 1. So the oocytes are arrested in diplotin stage of prophase of meiosis 1, and this is also called as dictyate state. This is also called as dictyate state. Then now at puberty, now the child has been born and she has reached puberty. At puberty, the hypothalamus produces GnRH. This GnRH will activate anterior pituitary, leading to LH. This LH is released and it forms slowly, it builds up and forms LH surge. This LH surge results in resuming meiosis 1. So now the meiosis 1 is resumed. So once meiosis 1 is resumed, now this primary oocyte will produce secondary oocyte and first polar body by completing the meiosis 1. Okay, this first polar body is released 10 to 12 hours prior to ovulation. It is released 10 to 12 hours prior to ovulation, and this will coincide with LH peak. So this first polar body will coincide with LH peak, and it is released 10 to 12 hours prior to ovulation. Right, next, this secondary oocyte, now it is in metaphase. Okay, and this secondary oocyte, it starts undergoing meiosis 2 and it gets arrested in the metaphase now. Okay, now at fertilization, after fertilization, the meiosis 2 is completed. That is, this metaphase resumes after fertilization and it completes the meiosis 2. And once meiosis 2 is completed, it releases a female pronuclei and second polar body. Okay, now the one-liners. The time taken between LH surge and ovulation is 32 to 36 hours, or if it is given 32 to 36 hours, you will have to mark it, or else if it is given 24 to 36 hours, you can mark that also. Okay, oogenesis begins in intrauterine life, right? Oogenesis will begin in intrauterine life. If you see ova, it is the largest cell of the body. What is the diameter of ova? It is 120 microns. The size of resting oocyte is 0.2 millimeters. The size of the follicle just before ovulation is 18 to 20 millimeters. Fertilizable span of ovum is 12 to 24 millimeters. Size of the resting follicle is 0.2 millimeters. Size of the follicle just before ovulation is 18 to 20 millimeters. Fertilizable span of the ovum is 12 to 24 millimeters. Then some more one-liners. Germ cells reach the yolk sac. Germ cells reach the yolk sac at 3 weeks. Germ cells reach the gonad at 6 weeks. Oogonia are formed at 9 weeks. Primary oocytes are formed at 12 to 16 weeks. Follicle formation begins by 15 to 20 weeks. Follicle formation completes by 20 to 24 weeks. So germ cells will reach the gonad at 6 weeks. Oogonia are formed at 9 weeks. Primary oocyte is formed at 12 weeks. Follicle formation will begin at 5 to 20 weeks and completes by 22 to 24 weeks. Then we will have to know about the number of follicles per oocyte also. There are 6 million follicles are present at 20 weeks. 6 million follicles are present at 20 weeks of intrauterine life. 1.2 million follicles are present at birth. Okay. 4 to 5 lakhs follicles are present at puberty, and only 500 follicles are present in entire lifespan, or will mature in entire lifespan. So 6 to 7 million follicles are present at 20 to 20 weeks of intrauterine life. 1 to 2 million follicles are present at birth. 4 to 5 lakh follicles are present at puberty. Only 500 follicles will mature into adult forms. 100 follicles will undergo atresia every month. Every month 100 follicles will undergo atresia. So these are the one-liners which you should remember. Then let us now learn some points about testosterone. Testosterone production begins. When does testosterone production begins? Testosterone production begins at 7 to 8 weeks of life. Maximum production of testosterone occurs at 15 weeks of life. So beginning of testosterone is at 7 to 8 weeks of life. Maximum testosterone is seen at 15 weeks of life, and from 15 weeks of life and then it decreases. So you can draw the graph like this. Okay, testosterone increase begins at 7 to 8 weeks. Maximum it is at 15 weeks of life. Okay, then this testosterone will remain low till puberty, and at around 17 years of age the testosterone will increase to 5 to 7 milligram per day, and free testosterone is seen at 0.5 to 3.1 level. See, at 17 years of age the testosterone will be 5 to 7 milligrams per day, and free testosterone will be 0.5 to 3.1. Okay, then this graph, that is after puberty, it will be low until puberty, and then from puberty it will again rise. Okay, then if you see, this testosterone will be bound to sex hormone binding globulin. So this testosterone will bind to sex hormone binding globulin and albumin. Okay, and then the free testosterone, in the presence of 5-alpha reductase, it gets converted to dihydrotestosterone. This dihydrotestosterone is the most potent testosterone. The most potent androgen is by dihydrotestosterone. Testosterone is to dihydrotestosterone ratio is equal to 10 to 15:1. This testosterone can also get converted to estrogen. Okay, the testosterone, in the presence of aromatase, it gets converted to estrogen. The estrogen amount, it gets converted to 50 microgram per day of estrogen, 20% in test and 80% in adipose tissue. Among this, 20% will be in test and 80% will be in adipose tissue. This estrogen increases the bone mineral density, causes closure of epiphysis of the long bones, and maintains the body fat function and sexual function. Next we will learn about fertilization. When the sperm reaches the ova, when sperm reaches the female reproductive tract, the first it undergoes capacitation. What is this capacitation? Capacitation is this time taken for the process of capacitation is 6 to 8 hours. This capacitation is the ability of sperm to to fertilize the ovum. It is the ability of sperm to fertilize the ovum. In this, the sperm become motile in the caudal end of epididymis. Normally, the sperm start their motility in caudal end of epididymis, but they become hypermotile in fallopian tube. Sperm becomes motile in caudal end of epididymis and they become hypermobile in fallopian tube, and it will within 30 minutes of time span, it will reach the fallopian tube. The sperm will reach the fallopian tube. This is called as capacitation. Okay. Now, after capacitation, the second reaction that it occurs is acrosomal reaction occurs. What is this acrosomal reaction? Acrosomal reaction occurs with the help of the enzyme hyaluronidase. This occurs with enzyme hyaluronidase. What happens in acrosomal reaction? In this, the sperm will attach to the zona pellucida. Okay, this attachment of sperm to zona pellucida is activated by the receptors ZP1, ZP2 and ZP3. This is the picture where you can see the sperm. First it has undergone capacitation and first reaction is acrosomal reaction. This purple color is zona pellucida. So sperm has attached to the zona pellucida with the help of the enzyme hyaluronidase, and this attachment is facilitated or activated by ZP1, ZP2 and ZP3 receptors. Then there is cortical reaction. The third reaction is cortical reaction. What happens in cortical reaction? So here in cortical reaction, see, this is the zona pellucida. The sperm has binded. Now the sperm penetrates the zona pellucida in cortical reaction. In cortical reaction, now the sperm will penetrate the zona pellucida in cortical reaction, and it reaches the cortex of secondary oocyte. Now after penetration, it has reached the cortex, and during penetration the enzymes which are helpful are the ZP2 receptor is helpful and calcium ion is helpful, and also there are some enzymes which are released from the cortex during this reaction. So that is the second reaction, which is sperm penetration. Then we have third reaction, which is called as zona reaction. What is this zona reaction? This zona reaction, during this zona reaction, the sperm will make the zona pellucida impermeable. Okay, this is the place where it has made the zona pellucida impermeable. So here the sperm will make the zona pellucida impermeable to other cells, and as a result this will prevent the polyspermy. So this is the fourth reaction which is seen here, and third reaction is sperm penetration seen here, and this is second and this is first. Yeah, so these are the reactions which you see in for fertilization. Now once the sperm has entered the egg, now there is fusion of the nuclei. That is, now the fertilization, the gene responsible for fertilization is the gene called as fertin gene is responsible for fertilization. So in fertilization, sperm combines with secondary oocyte, leading to the formation of fertilization, which occurs in ampulla of fallopian tube. Once fertilization occurs, this leads to formation of zygote. First this zygote divides to form 2 cell stage, then it divides to form 4 cell stage, then it divides to form 8 cell stage. So finally 16 cell staged morula is formed. On day 3 or 4, this morula moves into the uterine cavity. On day 3 or 4, morula moves into the uterine cavity with peristalsis of tube and movement of tube. Okay, now morula moves into the uterine cavity on 3 or 4 with peristalsis in tube, which is the main factor. Okay, that is on day 3 or 4. Then on day 5, by day 5, there is formation of blastocyst. This blastocyst contain a trophoblast and inner cell mass. This blastocyst, here you see zona pellucida dissolution occurs on day 5 during blastocyst formation. Okay, now that is day 5. After day 5, on day 6, what happens? Implantation occurs on day 6th. On day 6, implantation starts on day 6th and it gets over by day 10 or 11. The implantation ends. Implantation starts on day 6 and ends on day 10 or 11. So in implantation, if you see, implantation is mainly of two types. We have superficial implantation which is occurring, and there is interstitial implantation occurs. In superficial implantation, this will attach the cell, the zygote attaches superficially to endometrium. In interstitial implantation, it has implanted deep inside the endometrium, and this interstitial implantation is more common in humans. Okay, so this is about the fertilization. Then in the fertilization, if you see, what is the most common site of fertilization? The most common site of fertilization is posterior wall of upper two-third of body of uterus. Posterior wall of upper two-third of body of uterus is the most common site of implantation. First, superficial implantation occurs, followed by interstitial implantation. Next, we will learn about the endometrium in pregnancy, that is decidua. This endometrium in pregnancy can be classified into three types. One, we have decidua capsularis, then decidua basalis, then decidua parietalis. Okay, in decidua capsularis, this decidua capsularis is this one. It separates the blastocyst from the uterine cavity. It separates the blastocyst from the uterine cavity, that is decidua capsularis. Decidua basalis will separate the blastocyst from the myometrium. Decidua basalis separates the blastocyst from myometrium. The rest of the decidua is decidua parietalis. The rest of the decidua is decidua parietalis. Then decidua capsularis, at around 14 to 16 weeks, decidua parietalis and decidua capsularis will become fused to form decidua vera. So decidua capsularis and decidua parietalis, both these fuse at 14 to 16 weeks and it forms decidua vera. Mild spotting will occur, can be seen up to 16th week, and this is called as implantation bleeding or Hartmann's sign. Mild spotting that occurs at 16th week, 16 weeks, is called as implantation bleeding or Hartmann's sign. Then if you see, we have in the blastocyst, we have trophoblast and inner cell mass. The trophoblast divides into two things. One, we have cytotrophoblast, and second, we have syncytiotrophoblast. Okay, cytotrophoblast mainly can be divided into, it has outer chorion and inner amnion. Cytotrophoblast has outer chorion and inner amnion. Okay, the outer chorion will form chorion frondosum and chorion levae. Outer chorion will form chorion frondosum, that is placenta, and chorion levae. This chorion frondosum will combine with decidua basalis, which we have seen before, and it lead to the formation of placenta. So placenta is formed from chorionic frondosum and decidua basalis. Then if you see, there is one important thing. These are the important table. When do we call as ovular or germinal period? Ovular or germinal period is seen from fertilization to 2 weeks. From fertilization to 2 weeks, you see ovular or germination period. Embryonal period is seen from 3 weeks to 8 weeks, you see embryonal period. Fetal period is seen more than 8 weeks till delivery, you see fetal period. Okay, next, this is about the fertilization and everything. So thank you guys for watching my lecture. In the next class we will learn about placenta. Thank you.